and gentlemen, hoop fans, welcome back to In the Zone. Today, Pete Coles, my co host, is out. He's getting married soon. But there's a lot to do around a wedding, folks. You know that. And so we are privileged and joined today by special guest Brady LePage. Brady and I worked together on that really, really good interview we did with Will Dawkins of the Washington Wizards. And Brady today gets his first shot in the hot seat on In the Zone. Welcome, Brady.
Good to be here. Glad we're figuring our way out here.
Yep, and great to have you. We worked together on that interview, and Brady is a really, really great young man and has a really bright future in the business. So we're very proud to bring him in today to In the Zone. And usually we start off In the Zone with a little bit of a personal note. So we want to wish Pete and Christy the best in their wedding. I'm going to be at the nuptials myself with my beautiful bride, Alexandra. We're excited for that. We're excited for Pete. We're excited for them. And we just want to say In the Zone, congratulations to the special couple on your special day. And Brady, I just want to let you know, I don't know what your dating situation is right now, where your world is at, baby. But I only knew Pete for a little while, and all of a sudden he's engaged. He's getting married. So prepare for big things, man. Once you hit the zone, there's
no
not a lot
back.
of places to go from there. No,
Yeah.
It's 100% in the zone. We usually start off in Pete's corner. Pete formulates, postulates, and hoists 3 questions my way that I don't get. And so today, we're going to start off with Brady's bombs. And Brady's going to throw 3 of them my way. I think he had a little help from Pete on this one.
Yeah,
Pete's getting married, but he's always around. He's always doing stuff. So
yeah, he had questions.
Pete was
he sent
good,
out
and so Brady and Pete collaborated on this, and I'm ready to go. Brady, hit me with number 1.
All right, question 1. The NBA is moving back to NBC. It's home for many years. Will that help the ratings for the league that's been failing lately?
No. Doesn't matter where you put it. It's a stink bomb. You can put it anywhere you want. Nobody's going to want to watch it. It's the product. They got to change the product. You can move it. You can do anything you want with it right now, but unless you change the product, it's not going to get any better. What are the turnoffs is what they have to address with people. I've talked about this on the show a lot. I think the season's too long. I think the game is too long. I think there's too many teams. And now they're starting to try and expand into the world to go to USA and Basketball Africa and to other parts of Europe, trying to extend and expand into there, when I really don't think they're doing a great job with the product here. And if you look at, let me give you something to think about. If you look at the last time LeBron James was in the finals, and go back to the Jordan era, and then compare where the NBA is right now to that in ratings-wise, they have absolutely hemorrhaged somewhere between 60 to 70% of their audience. And there's multiple reasons for that. We just listed a few. But I think that the NBA is in trouble. And I think that's showing up in their ratings. And I think that just by moving it to NBC, that's kind of typical of them, that they would think that that's an absolutely concrete solution to what's going on right now. But the issues they have run much deeper than that. Possibly it might help a little bit, being that it's NBC. They have a very professional operation over there, but I don't see it being the solve that they think it's going to be, if they think it's going to be that. I think that might just be more about money, and when you're going out and looking for contracts that are huge and contracts that are the sustenance of what you do, those TV contracts are the sustenance of basically what everybody does right now. You got to go out there and you got to try and, make it look good. You got to try and, at least get into that piece of it, So I think the NBA, as far as being marketable, they're basically the Roman Empire right now. They're going to get too big. They're going to grow. They're going to try and expand in a time when they shouldn't be doing that. And they're gonna run into a lot of different issues. The NBA started out as a barn league. They used to call it a barn league because the games were played in armories and not big arenas like they have right now. And the game has grown significantly and substantially. But the game has taken a drop off when they haven't included basketball people in the decision-making process. And that happens both in the NBA and on the NCAA. They have to include basketball people more in their thought process because right now they're very corporate. Right now they're very return on investment driven. And as much as they're driven towards return on investment, the return on investment's just not there. So I think it's a great question, but I don't think that's helping anybody, to be very honest with you. Let's give number 2 a shot.
All right, question number 2. Should college athletes who make money on name, image, and likeness be forced to go to class?
Wow. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, you just came right out with that one.
You have, I'm always for standards that can be applied equally. And on college campuses right now, you have a number of students that aren't even in the classroom. They attend classes online. That didn't go away post-COVID. That stayed. And so you have some young men that don't go to class at all. All of their classes can be online. And I would venture to say that the majority of those Division I guys right now that are in class are in a situation where they're online. You know, they're taking online classes. And so the actual going to class piece there has even been eliminated because all you have to do is open up the portal from time to time in your online class and kind of show that you're attending and representing. You know, that's a really, really good question because when I say I like standards that are applied equally, they have a real problem on college campuses right now with anybody going to class, with anybody attending. It's a real problem. And it's one of the reasons that they have retention issues on almost every college campus, that students are not staying, they're failing out, they're going home. And so that's a real issue on a lot of campuses, and a lot of that is the issue because of the real class attendance issues that they have. You know, you get to college and there's a lot of distraction. So I'm going to lay it out for you when you get ready to go to college. You know, there's your classroom, and then there's all those video games that guys like to play in the dorm at night. There's parties to go to. There's other things that you do outside of class, and sometimes that keeps you up very, very late at night, and a lot of those classes are early in the morning. It creates a conflict, what I call a biological conflict. And so can you require them to go to class? I don't even know how you would do that, and I don't really think that they're interested in that. I don't think that the schools would have an interest in that because they kind of let their professors operate individually. Generally, the universities that I've been associated with will let their professors operate individually with an attendance policy. Some professors take it. Some professors don't. Some professors will have a very strict policy. Others will have a very lenient policy. So I don't know how you could coagulate that all into one. And to say that, you know, these one and done guys, let me walk you through a one and done. Let me explain for people what a one and done is. Okay, one and done is a young man who enters college only for the requirement that the NCAA and the NBA have agreed to, that they'll spend 1 year in college. And so when you have a young man like Cooper Flagg, who came in last year, his intention was only to spend 1 year there. So when you have one and dones, you walk through a one and done. Basically, if you're a one and done, you can go into your first semester, and the requirement is that you carry 12 credit hours the entire time that you're eligible. And so you have to be physically enrolled in those classes for at least 12 credits. Now, what they do then is, if you go into your first group there, you're not going to get measured until you get to the end of the year. So what happens in that first semester is irrelevant. So if you're one and done, you walk in, you sign up for classes, and you can withdraw from all of them at the end of the year. Or you just take the classes. Who cares if you get Fs? Because you're not going to be around for the rest of your college career. You're going on to make millions of dollars. Then you go into second semester. Second semester is over in March, and basically they just march out the door and go. So the one and dones are completely not going to class. Now pick up the point of you have a transfer portal where some students are in a different college every single year. Typically, what would happen with a student is when they transfer, you're going to go from one school, let's call it College A, and now you're transferring to College B. When you go from College A to College B, they need your transcript. And when they look at your transcript, the College B will say, we're doing an audit on your transcript. And there you're going to lose some credits that aren't above C grade. There you're going to lose some credits. So every single time you see one of these young men transfer, go from school to school to school, in 4 different schools in 4 different years. They've probably been through 3 transfer audits, and anything that's usually below a C doesn't get carried over. So unless they're really doing well in school and producing in all of their classes, they're going to be able to not even come close to graduating at the end of time. And a lot of them won't be pro basketball players. A lot of them might exist in Europe or some other place for a couple of years. But that's one of the things that you're looking at here that's not even being, given credence to, is that you're destroying not only amateurism, but you're destroying the college experience as well. Because 4 schools in 4 years, 3 transfer audits, I'd love to see that transcript and tell me they had 120 transferable credits ready to go for graduation. I'd love to see it. But 2 good ones, Brady. Hit me with number 3.
All right, number 3. Will anyone ever regulate the silly amount of money players are paid in the NBA?
They do regulate it now, but as you can tell, it's regulated almost to be deregulated. You can sign your own player for any amount of money you want. So the ridiculous amount of money you see doesn't usually come when a guy is a free agent or goes from team to team. A lot of it is when they try and sign their own players, like the Celtics 2 years ago with Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, I would say, might be in the top 25 NBA players of all time, but he got the number 1 contract of all time from the Celtics at $50 million per. So is that coming back? I don't think so, because the TV money's there. If the TV money starts to dry up, I think you'll see, you're in the $70 million range right now per year. $70 million. The ridiculousness of it is one of the things that I think is holding the NBA back, because walking into the arena for an average person is near impossible now to take your kids to a game, and then to see that these guys are making all this money, and the reason that the ticket prices are that high is because of those salaries as well. And so there's a connection there, and I think it's a real connection, and I think the NBA has let that go way, way, way beyond reason, way beyond limits of what people consider to be normal for what those guys do. We broke it down on the show maybe last week, the week before, where you have a situation where, guys are getting $2 million a game. They had big contracts, played in 16 games, and got crazy amount of money per game. I think somebody said one time that they didn't really have a problem with the high price of stardom, but they had a huge problem with the high price of mediocrity. And right now, what you're seeing in the NBA, and even in college players as well, seeing a high price of mediocrity. And right now you're just going shopping, basically. You don't recruit anymore. You go shopping. So I think that's been at the detriment of the league as well, detriment of college basketball as well. Do people start to take notice and start to lose interest? That's a question that can be answered down the road. But if you see where the NBA trended, how the NBA got to where the NBA got to, they didn't just be, it's like when somebody, has a relationship that doesn't go well, and somebody might step out on the other person. That didn't just happen in one day. There were 50 things that led up to that. And the same thing happens here. There's always 50 things that lead up to this. And along the way, nobody really ever signaled the alarm. So, Brady, tremendous job. Great start to the show. I want to apologize to all the people right now for my throat, my voice, because I'm in the middle of basketball season and there's a lot going on in the gym, very noisy, but I do apologize for that. I want to get to some baselines for you. I want to get to some questions for you in the top 25. I just took out one top 25. It was the AP, which is a good one usually, and I just went through it, and I just threw out some questions similar to what we did on the show last week with the NBA teams. But here's my baseline questions. And again, I like to answer sometimes Pete's questions with a question, but this was along the line of kind of what Brady was talking about. Does the NIL and the portal impact the popularity of college basketball? And I think if you look at the way the NBA trended, I'd be a little nervous if I was the people in the TV areas about college basketball right now. I'd be looking for some solutions that weren't based in just ridiculous contracts like the NBA is trending. Because right now, you'll talk about this later in the show maybe, but you have Kentucky Wildcats, generally number one basketball team thought of. You know, you have Kentucky, you have Duke, you have some other blue bloods. Kansas is right in there. But Kentucky is generally, national championships, All-Americans, NBA draft picks. If you measure those things, if those are your metrics, Kentucky is one of the top teams. We're talking about $22 million this year for their basketball team, a payroll of $22 million. So you have a payroll, you have pros. It's not what it used to be. Is there going to be some ramifications for that? I don't know how you avoid them. I think they'll just butter the bread with more money, though, because that's what they did in the NBA, too. All right, second question for me. Is Kelvin Sampson currently the best coach in the country? I'm really a big fan of Coach Sampson's. Love his approach, love his program, like the way they're recruiting. The question I have for them is they're going to rely very heavily on two freshmen this year, Chris Senack, Isaiah Harwell, number 6, and number 14 in the ESPN Top 100. So they're very, very good players. But when you have to bring in two freshmen, include them, that can hurt you at tournament time sometimes. If you look at the Duke team last year, big lead in a game, their freshmen just didn't handle the stage very well and kind of fell off. But I do think Kelvin Sampson is the best coach right now. A lot of people talk about Danny Hurley because of the back-to-backs. Bill Self, he's got championships. Izzo's always given a look here and there. There's some others, but I just think the standard, Matt Painter is another name I would bring up. But the standard with Kelvin Sampson right now at the University of Houston, tremendous. Just absolutely tremendous. Okay, can Florida repeat? Question 3. Could Florida repeat? That's a huge baseline for this year. UConn repeated several years back. Everybody's looking for that next repeat. And the funny piece is if Florida does repeat, they'll have repeated and repeated because it was the Florida team before UConn, which was the last team to repeat, Billy Donovan's team, that went back-to-back, the Florida Gators. So that's interesting to watch. Can they repeat when you break it down? Can Florida repeat? I think you got Boogie Fland and Xavier Lee over there, and that's the huge question mark for me, is are they going to be able to meld, to mix in, and be a really great backcourt? Because their frontline returns, Alex Condon, Ruben Chinule, they've got some people up front. Tommy Haw, that played last year, that won the championship last year. What they're missing is Walter Clayton and some of the other guards that they had there that was so very good. Question is, can Xavier Lee and Boogie Fland get together on that Florida team? That'll be interesting to watch. Okay, question number 4, is the ACC going to, at any time, reclaim their great storied history and really their elevated status as what was once considered the best basketball conference in the country? Right now you have the Big 12. I think this year might overlap the SEC just based upon some of the talent that went in there last year. But you got the Big 12, the SEC, the Big 10. Right now the ACC, which used to be number 1 of all the Power 4, you'd be hard-pressed to say that they're number 1 still. Or they're definitely not number 1. You have 2 or 3 teams in that conference that are considered to be top 25. You might get Louisville. You might get Duke this year. UNC is very shaky, and I don't know anybody else that's coming out of that league that's going to be able to do that. Okay? Here's another question for you, number 5. Why can't NBA players now go back to NCAA? I'm saying that facetiously a little bit, but you have now players that were in the G League being taken into the NCAA tournament, being taken into the NCAA, given packages, being paid. Somebody goes to the NBA and gets paid, or we're going to talk about it later, is the waiver list that just came out. R.J. Lewis, in particular, just released by the Celtics. Can he go back to college? Can he go back now? I don't know why, but I'm sure there'll be some lawsuits over that. But they're going to have all of this cross-sectioning where it's going to be unable to tell anybody that if you've earned money, that you can't come back to college or go to college. It's going to be really, really interesting down the road. Okay, international players. A lot of international players. Illinois going that route. Is there a luxury tax on international players? Number one, it's difficult to ascertain their talent level because you don't get to see them play as much. You're watching them on film. You're getting clips. Once in a while, you might go over to Europe and actually see them play, but it's difficult. Second, the talent level that they're competing against. It's not the same. Not the same as American basketball over there, especially at the lower levels. Higher levels, yes, but at lower levels, no. And so a lot of those international players also come with a very hefty price tag. They all have agents. They all know what's going on over here. They all know the NIL exists, and they're coming over left and right and taking a lot of those spots. And they're coming over and they're getting paid a lot of money. All right, so international players, keep an eye on that one. What's the best mid-major conference right now? That's an interesting one. Mountain West, maybe? Do you go with the Atlantic 10, which has always been solid, but kind of dried up recently with their multiple bids? Is where UMass is heading to the MAC, right now, pretty good. So I think it's an interesting question. I would probably defer just recently, especially to the Mountain West out there. The best Power 4 conference that we'd like to talk to you about today is, I think, going to be the Big 12 this year. Darren Peterson and A.J. DeBonsa both going into the Big 12 is huge. They're the number 1 and 2 player in ESPN Top 100, and they're considered to be the number 1 and 2 player on most NBA draft boards right now. So them coming into the same league, competing against each other, going to go head-to-head, just makes that league very special, and the teams in there are just ridiculous. I don't know how you make it through a year in that league, unless you're one of the top teams and you're winning all the time. You go down there and you get beat up like 6, 7, 8 games in a row. Man, it's murder. Tough to keep your locker room together under those conditions. Who starts at number 1? Who starts at number 1? For us, it's St. John's. Really, really think Pitino's got it going this year. A lot of people, Purdue. AP was Purdue. Some people, Houston. It's hard to say no to Houston. Man, they return a great team. 2 very talented freshmen. Great coach. The standard at Houston has been lifted. They're really, really solid. I would go with Houston as my number 2. I like St. John's talent. They have a lot of talent, but they've got some players over there also as well. So I think that could be really interesting. Houston, in the last 5 years, has been the standard. Purdue, people are considering them, but for me, they've just kind of not been able to hold it together, in the late season for a while. They got there to the final a while ago, but, they've been great in the regular season. Best regular season team maybe in a long time, but, who knows? All right. Could a group of NCAA stars currently, we're talking like A.J. DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, Jacob Toppin, Joe Tugler, Emmanuel Sharp, some of the best players in the country right now, could they beat an NBA team? Could all of the talent accumulated, because a lot of the guys that could have been drafted in the first round, they went back. They went back and they're playing, You have Cedric Coward, who went out. He was supposed to go to Duke, but he went out. But other than that, a lot of guys went back. And also players that were considering going that were really, probably first-round picks. Todd Pettiford comes to mind, that they went back as well. So I don't know that they could beat an NBA team, but some of those NBA teams are pretty bad. All right. I'm going to run you through my top 25. It's not my top 25. We have our own. But I took APs, and then I lit up a question about each one of them to see where they go. So they have Purdue number 1. Really, tough to argue with. They got a good team coming back. I like Houston a lot more than I like Purdue, but can they win the national title? They lost. The last time they were in the final was when they lost to UConn, and UConn beat them pretty good, 75-60. But their standard's unbelievable. Again, they got 35 first-place votes from the AP. They're ranked number 1. I would not have them number 1. I have them probably 3 or 4. Houston, can this young, talented freshman class, Chris Senack, number 6, Isaiah Harwell, number 14, can they carry the day? Can they adjust to that Houston culture right away? Can they adapt to their defensive prowess right away? And can they be 2 guys that are, 40% of their lineup looks like it's going to be new? So they also have great, great players around them. Emmanuel Sharp, Milos Uzan, just great players. The big kid, Joe Tugler, is one of the best defensive players in the country. And their bench is lit up as well, too. They got talent, folks. Okay, excuse me again. Connecticut, number 4. Florida, number 3. 3-4, 4-3. This, a lot of people had this. Florida, number 3. I like Florida. Xavier Lee and Boogie Flander are very good, but their front line's back, and they're very, very solid. But can they form? Can Boogie and Xavier Lee form? I think they can. Boogie was good at Arkansas last year, but kind of in and out a little bit with injury. I'm interested to see what happens in this Florida program. They have Connecticut 4. My big question is always with Tyrus Reed. Can he turn into the best big man in the country that I think he can be? Maybe one of the best in the Big East. You got Zuby Ejiofor at St. John's, who probably most consider the best big man in the country right now. Tugler, people consider to be one of the best big men in the country. Can our friend out at UConn, Tyrus Reed, I'm very high on him, can he elevate, really mature, and get into that spot where he's going to be considered one of the best big men in the country? And I really think he will be. All right, St. John's. Is the point guard position really dead? Coach Pitino came out and said, yeah, the point guard position's dead. They're not going to have it anymore. Then he went on to lament how his team had no chemistry during the preseason. So I think it's one of those things where the point guard position's evolving and morphing, but will never be dead. Those responsibilities will always be there. Somebody's got to get the ball over half court. Somebody's got to bring you into offense. Somebody's got to be able to run the show. Somebody's got to be able to handle the ball without losing the ball. Somebody's got to be very turnover assist conscious. And so that's how a team runs the best. I know what Coach Pitino's talking about. He's talking about in terms of athleticism and bringing bigger players to the floor that when they switch defensively, they can cover just about anybody and cover them well. I get what he's saying, but the responsibilities of the point guard position are not dead. And if you neglect them as a coach, don't have a guy who can handle those responsibilities, your team is going to suffer. They got Duke at 6. I'm not as high on Duke as everybody else because I think their one-and-done stuff, like Kentucky did a bunch of years ago, might have run up on them and caught up to them. We'll see this if it goes that way. But, again, has the one-and-done caught up to the Blue Devils? I mean, last year you have Kaman Malik, you have Cooper Flagg, and then you have Con Knuppel. There's 3 starters off that team, all go and their first-round draft picks, all in the top 15, so that's a lot. And, I know they have the Boozer twins now, and Cam and Caden Boozer, and they're great players, but I just don't know if they have enough around them, to continue. They lost 3 guys, and they're 3 really, really great players. I just don't know. Michigan. And is Elliot Cadeau ready to go? I wasn't very high on him at North Carolina. Michigan was very excited to bring him in. I don't know if that wasn't an evaluation mistake. I hope he fits in well. I hope it does well, but he's just not my guy, at that position. BYU 8. I think BYU at 8 might be a little bit low, but is A.J. Debonsa the number 1? I'd say right now he is. They have a very, very good team around him. You have Saunders. You've got other really good players around him. So they're going to be good. BYU is going to be good. 8 might be too low. Kentucky, Otega Awe, when he came back, that really lit the Blue Devil fans up. But they have some very, very good portal additions. Jaden Quaitons coming from Arizona State. Jalen Lowe coming from Pittsburgh. 2 very, very good additions. I think that's going to be, their kind of their 3-man core there. Otega Owe goes right in there as well. So 9th for them, I can see it, but I could also see them drop a little lower. Texas Tech, is Jacob Toppin the best player in the country? I think he is. I think he's the best player in the country. I would have him very, very high on our draft board as well. UCLA, Coach Cronin, they joined the Big Ten. They was like, wow, I saw the Statue of Liberty 3 times in 2 weeks, or 1 week. I was like, didn't you know that when you joined the league? And guess what? The Statue of Liberty ain't getting no closer to Los Angeles. It's the same distance it was last year. They're going to have to deal with that. It's a lot of distance. And I wondered about some of these conferences when they made those huge leaps to go into these power conferences all the way across the country. And now you're seeing the ramifications for that. the complaining about that, but I can't really listen to the complaining of it because you knew what you were getting into. Arizona at 13. Can Tommy Lloyd take a team deep into the tournament? Arizona, Lute Olson, even Sean Miller, great teams, went deep into the tournament. At times got bumped out too, but Tommy Lloyd's got to keep the people in Arizona happy. You're going to have to punch a ticket and punch a ticket deep. They got to do it soon. Arkansas, no Boogie, no problem. I don't think they're going to have a problem replacing Boogie. His name is Malik Thomas, number 11 player in ESPN Top 100. I think he's going to fill in nicely. Calipari's got some other people there as well. I think they're going to be fine. 14's a good spot for them. Alabama, heavy losses in the last 2 years. Mark Sears, Noah Clowney, guys who are going to play in the NBA, I believe. Just really devastating losses, but they're doing well down there. Oates is a great coach. Bring it back. 15 would be good for them, I think, if they could hold on there because their conference is very rough, and also their schedule's very rough. And I think, they just are, with all of these plate tectonics shifting, some teams are getting caught, in different years where you're not as flush as others and as other teams are. Alabama, 15. Iowa State, 16. Can they sustain? That's the question about Iowa State. 2 years ago, they were at the top, did great. Had a decent run. Last year, injuries, got bounced. Tameen Lipsey's back. Mom Chalovic is back. Are they going to be able to sustain and make that run all the way through the season? Because they have been up and down a little bit. Illinois, the traditional European lineup that you would put out on the floor. Illinois has a Euro lineup right now. The traditional lineup that you would put out on the floor definitely would have problem with physicality. And if the Big Ten continues their trend towards physicality, they've always been a very physical conference. I think that could be a problem for Illinois' guys because the European players just don't play that physically. Tennessee, can Nate Ament carry the tent? They've got some good players. They brought in Gillespie from Maryland, who's a good guard, but Nate Ament's a 6'8" point guard, handle the ball, do a lot of really good stuff, and I think he'll be terrific. Kansas, 19. That's as low as you've seen Kansas in a long time. And believe me, the people at Kansas are hyping about it. They want to get back to where they were. They want to get back to that storied tradition that they have. Problem is you're having problems because everybody's just got money now, and people are going all over the place. The traditional schools that used to land 4 or 5 out of the top 50, now they're getting 2. And I think Kansas is in that. But is Darren Peterson the guy that's going to be able to carry that for them? I think that's a lot of pressure to put on a freshman. He's certainly a great athlete and going to be able to do a lot of things, but I just don't know what else they got around him. Auburn, Pence, we've got a pearl to pearl handoff here. We'll see if it works. They lost to Oklahoma State in a scrimmage the other day. I think they're going to have problems on the defensive end. I also don't know, what they have up front. They lost a lot, a ton. Janai Broom, gone. Cardwell, gone. Baker Mazzara, gone. So they got a ton of issues up front, and I don't know how that's going to translate. They got lit up by the guards at Oklahoma State as well. Gonzaga, do they keep Graham Ike all year? Because if they do, they're going to be a top 10 team. They're not going to be a 21st team. If Graham Ike can stay healthy and keep after it, they're going to be really good. Got hurt last year, and that really threw them off. Michigan State, can they sustain the heavy losses that they've had to the NBA draft? A lot of guys going in and out. I think they're okay, but you got one of the best coaches in the game right there. Creighton, is Greg McDermott the best offensive mind in the game? I'd answer that in the affirmative. I think he's great. His sets are all over social media, people copying them, running their stuff, doing a really good job at Creighton, which isn't a very easy basketball job for sure. Wisconsin, will the depth of the Big Ten eventually catch up to Wisconsin? I think they're doing good. They got a great player over there in Blackwell. I think they'll be fine. Guard's a good coach. I'm going to root for them. UNC, is there any pressure more on 2 people? Caleb Wilson, their freshman forward who comes in, very hyped, and really, they need a lot out of him. But also, there's just a tremendous amount of tension with Hubert Davis as well there. We'll see how that flies all season. All right, here's your preseason all Big 12. This league is loaded. What I liked about the Big 12 is, as instead of a first team, second team, they're just going to throw 10 guys at you. They're telling you their league is so loaded that they can't hold their first team to 5 guys. If you had held this to 5 guys, they would all be probably first-round draft picks. Okay, so let's go through it. A.J. Debonsa, BYU. He's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft, folks. Richie Saunders, BYU, goes out right now. Today, he gets drafted 20 to 25 in the first round. Emmanuel Sharp, Houston, what a shooter. Can really fill it up. Great player. Going to be a first-round NBA pick, I believe. Joe Tugler from Houston, the big fella inside. Doesn't score a ton, but he's a defensive presence, shot blocker. He's the anchor in Coach Sampson's defense down there. I love Tugler. Milos Uzan, he dipped his foot in the water a little bit of the NBA waters, but then came back, and I know Coach Sampson was happy about that. He's a very solid guard for them. Tamim Lipsey, Iowa State, got hurt. We'll see if he can hold on. They're giving him a little props there based upon what he's done, but his injuries have really slowed him as of late. Darren Peterson, this is what I'm excited about in the Big 12. You've got a big matchup coming with BYU and Kansas, the number 1 and 2 heavyweight championship bout that will be. That's going to be an exciting game. P.J. Haggerty of Kansas State, no idea. Well, I got some idea, but no idea why this young man will go to Kansas State. He was at Memphis, doing well at Memphis, getting paid well at Memphis, I'm sure. I'm sure Kansas State had a bigger bag for him. But if you're looking for a bigger bag, go somewhere where you can win the national title, because this is the type of young man that could have made one of those other teams unstoppable. If he walks into BYU, he walks into Texas Tech, they're really loaded. I really wonder about some of these decisions that are made. Christian Anderson from Texas Tech, they're hyping him. And J.T. Toppin of Texas Tech. Also, Mr. Toppin was selected as preseason player of the year. No surprise there. Here's a little bit of a surprise. Nobody, and I mean nobody, from Arizona, Baylor, Oklahoma State, or West Virginia. That's been a long, long time. Okay, Brady, let's shift. Let's rock and roll. Slip into some NBA for our folks. Pistons, Jaden Ivey. He's going to be out with an injury. The Pistons we're excited about having him. See if he could be another weapon. He's going to be out for a bit of time. The 76ers, this is a breaking announcement, folks. Paul George is going to miss the opener. Of course he is. All right. All that Jazz. I'm a little bit higher on the Jazz this year than I have been in the past. Here's why. Lauri Markkanen, Kyle Filipowski, Kessler, Walter Kessler, Keontae George, Bryce Sensabaugh, Ace Bailey, Walter Clayton Jr. That's a nice little group. I think they're going to be okay. Got to stay healthy, got to learn to play together, but I think they're going to be good. Derek White from the Celtics. Watch this name, folks. He's going to score a lot of points this year. Tatum's out. The big kid, Porzingis, has been traded to the Hawks. The big guy, Al Horford, now plays for the Warriors. Jrue Holiday is in Portland. So they're going to rely on Derek White a lot. 33 points the other night in a preseason game. 6 of 17 from three-point range. He's a shooter. 9 rebounds, though, 6 assists. Solid game for Mr. White. Kawhi Leonard was spotted playing in a preseason game. That's equally as exciting as Paul George missing the opener. Kawhi Leonard back in uniform for the Clippers. We love it. Caleb Love, he loves to shoot. I can tell you that. He got 16 shots up in 21 minutes. Okay, he was referred to the training staff for a little carpal tunnel syndrome after that, but we hear that he's fine. Kaman Malik, the Duke big man, 17 and 8 for the Suns the other night. Jordan Goodwin of St. Louis. When we tell you in the zone we like him, draft him, take him. We gave you Jordan Goodwin a while ago. Love this young man out of St. Louis, which was the Atlantic 10. 24, 4, and 6 assists for the Suns. And let me tell you, the Suns need it. The Suns need it. All right, Brady, I want you to start thinking about investing in NBA teams when you hit the big time. All right? The Warriors will only cost you $11.33 billion. The Lakers, just recently sold, $10 billion. The Knicks, $9.85 billion. The Clippers, $6.72 billion. Celtics, $6.35 billion, recently sold as well. Lakers and the Celtics, recently sold. Nets in Brooklyn, $6.22 billion. The Bulls in Chicago, look at the major market arenas here, $6.12. I don't know how they put the Warriors at 11, but I'm sure they have it figured out. The Heat, $6.3 billion. 76ers, $5.61. The Rockets, $5.53. Here's two bargains for you, Brady. You can get the OKC Thunder right now for $4.34 billion. That's a big savings over the $11 billion for the Warriors. And also the Grizzlies, you can get them for $4 billion. Not bad.
Are they for sale, the Grizzlies?
No.
No, but because I was going to say the guy that owns the Grizzlies is actually is an IT guy. He owns a networking company on the side.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
And he's got billions.
Yeah.
$4 billion he's going to make when he sells the Grizzlies, though. Not bad. Okay, the waiver wire. The waiver. I'm glad they call it the waiver because you're waving goodbye. All right, R.J. Lewis, huge news. That 4-minute explosion that he had at the end of that game, whatever occurred on that bench between him and Coach Pitino, is costing him money right now. He should have went back to college. If he wasn't staying at St. John's, then he could have went and gone someplace else. Made big money. Right now, went in with the Celtics. I thought the Celtics were going to keep him, but just recently waived. Spencer Dinwiddie of the Hornets, gone. Norshad Armir of the Cavs. I was surprised about that one. Gone. Buddy Boeheim, OKC, out of the door. Fanbo Zhang. I was kind of rooting for him just to say his name. Fanbo. He was from Brooklyn, gone. Killian Hayes, here's one that is a head shaker. Drafted by Cleveland. Is with Cleveland. Drafted by the Pistons. Number 7 overall in the draft. Released. Drew Tim and Derek Whitehead, gone. I thought Drew Tim might hang on with the Nets. Had a good preseason, but I guess not. Okay. ESPN Top 100. Here's what I want to tell you about this, because we like to be fully disclosured here. We like to present both sides of the argument. So a lot of times we'll say, hey, they got the number 7 player, ESPN, Top 100. We want to tell you what that means also. Their ratings. They're not seen a lot, the players. You can't watch a top 100 guys play a lot because they're all over the country. Now it's a little bit more easier with like Baller TV and some of the cable stations starting to pick up on that stuff. But unless you're going around the country, very, very difficult to do in-person evaluations of great players. That's why Sonny Vaccaro and a lot of the other guys used to have Nike Top 100 camps and bring all the best players in the country together. But here's the one that was interesting. With the ESPN 2022 Top 100, number 1 player was Derek Lively. He went to Duke. Number 2 player, Derek Whitehead. Number 3, Nick Smith. Number 4, Dylan Mitchell. Number 5, Amari Bailey. That's 5 players, okay? Only one of the top 5 in that class right now has a standard NBA contract. One of them. That's Derek Lively, who plays for the Mavericks right now. Not one of the other top 5. So the reason I bring that up is because we do cite that. Chris Senack, number 6. Isaiah Harwell, 14. Cooper Flagg was number 1. DeBonsa was number 1 this year. The reason we bring that up is because it's a metric, but you also have to realize that it's really difficult to do that type of evaluation until it's all thrown in the pot together and everybody plays against everybody. That's why I like the combine, the preseason, getting to see different matchups and different things that go together, but you're also getting to see the competition at the highest level, and see what it does. Okay. We've had some good preseason stuff, Brady. Really, really junky, so I'm watching preseason basketball at home. Cooper Flagg has been a real deal for the Mavericks. Very, very intelligently handled, I think, in the preseason, where they've limited his minutes, got him in, got him out, but they've limited him a little bit. He had 10, 6, and 3 assists the other night. Good, solid performance. I watched a little bit of the game. He was solid. He's going to be good. He's going to fit right in there. Luka came in, for the Lakers, dropped 25 and then dropped out, said that's enough for me, and then took the next couple of games off. Austin Reeves has been playing very well. I don't know why the Lakers can't utilize him in a little bit better fashion. He had 22 points preseason the other night. Derek White from Boston was off the charts the other night and has been very good. You're going to really, really count on them and Jaylen Brown to carry that team this year. Kel'el Ware, I love this young big man. We told you to draft him much higher than he was drafted. He's tearing it up for the Miami Heat right now. I've said this last week. I'm going to say it again. Coach Spoelstra, you got a little bit of a problem because Kel'el Ware is better than Bam Adebayo right now. Okay. Cade Cunningham for the Pistons, picking right up where he left off last year. You're going to have to include Cade Cunningham in a top 10 conversation in the NBA for sure. He's gonna push people to throw him into that top 5. He's really solid. Great player. Alperen Sengun with the Rockets. Good preseason games, and really excited to watch what happens with him and Durant, because that's maybe two of the best forwards in the NBA right now. Bringing in Kevin Durant, that's two really good ones. Zion is a Zion sighting, 18, 5, and 6 assists in 22 minutes. They're smart, and they're handling him in the appropriate way, but good to see him back. And the big fella, he looks good. He looks lean. He looks hungry. He looks agile, hostile, and mobile. All right, Hunter Dickinson. He went for 12, 5, and 3. I told these guys to draft him. Nobody listened to me. I told these guys to pick him up late first round, early second round. He's going to be a good pro. He had a good game, 12, 5, and 3. Jeremiah Fears, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, but his shooting woes continue. He's having trouble shooting the ball, especially having trouble shooting the ball from 3. But I think he might have made his first 3 from deep the other night. First one is 1 for 6, though. Franz Wagner, 24, 2, and 3. Another name. You put into a Cade Cunningham. This is another young man climbing the charts of the NBA right now. You'd have to say he's top 25, maybe top 20. If you got into the 15, I don't know about that, but he's playing great basketball. Trey Johnson, draft pick for the Wizards. Rough night the other night. I'm really high on this young man. 1 for 8 from the floor, 0 for 3 from three-point range. Reed Sheppard, Houston Rockets, preseason game. This will make them happy out there. I'm not a big Reed Sheppard fan in this position, to be honest with you. But 29 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. He was 5 of 13 from three-point range. If he can continue that, he'll start to help them. But his rookie season last year was terrible, and I didn't think he was anywhere near a number 3 pick, and that's where they drafted him. I really think the NBA has this Caucasian persuasion going on in their drafts last year where they took Reed Sheppard 3rd. Knuppel went 4th this year. Cooper Flagg had to go 1st. I think they're trying to get their ratings back, and one of the ways they're trying to do that is try to appeal to their audience. Josh Okogie, good game. Julius Randle and Edwards also had very good games. College basketball, I'm going to give you top 10 snipers that this guy put up. We're going to give them to you. Some really good ones out here. A sniper is a three-point shooter. That's your guy who's lined up on that three-point line, rarely moves off of it, and it's a detriment to the game a little bit with the lack of motion and mobility of some of these players. But to get set, to get shooting, their numbers are really good. Aden Holloway from Alabama, he can really shoot the ball. Came off the bench for them last year, 41.2%. So here's my metrics, all right? If you're a college basketball player and you want to play in the lineup, you have to shoot over 45% from the floor, minimum. If you want to be out on the floor, you have to shoot 70% minimum from the free throw line, all right? And if you want to be a three-point shooter, you got to be at least 35% from three-point shooting. 40% is great. 40% is very good. Isaiah Evans came off the bench for Duke last year, going to have a bigger role. He can light it up, 41%. Abdi Bashir, 38% last year. He was at Monmouth. Now he's going to K-State to team up with Haggerty. Pretty good backcourt there. Fletcher Lawyer, this is the reason Purdue's happy, because they got Braden Smith, what many consider to be one of the top point guards. They've got Trey Kaufman-Renn, who's a big man, going to be a top 15 NBA pick for sure, in my opinion. But they've then got Fletcher Lawyer, that third option. He can really fill it, really shoot it. Listen to this number, 44.4. Great number. Emmanuel Sharp, from Houston. Richie Saunders from BYU. It's one of the reasons people are excited about the Bonsa. They've got Richie Saunders on the other wing. Mikel Brown from Louisville. Isaac McNeely from Louisville. Bang, bang, back to back. McNeely comes from Virginia. Great shooter. Mikel Brown was there last year. Great shooter. The number one shooter of all that they have here, I'm going to slip over, is Ryan Conwell. And the funny thing is Louisville's got all of them. They've got 1, 3, and 4. In the number 2 spot, a local, everybody's going to love watching him play this year, Solo Ball from UConn. Really, really solid. All right. You got Tyler Lundblade from Belmont, though. He shoots 48%. Nobody gave him any love. Alex Chaikin from Lafayette, 47. Carmelo Pacheco, Mount St. Mary's, 46%. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right. We've got a couple of portal winners and losers, and we're going to close the show with that. All right, the winners that they had, this is ESPN's winners, the winners that they had, and again, they're saying these are the people that brought in the most ranked players and the people that lost the fewest ranked players. So they kind of did a mathematical algorithm type thing, did a little bit of shake and roll, see where they wound up, and that's where they came out with. They love Oklahoma. All right, Porter Moser, great coach. Hopefully they can get it going, but they have been buried in the bottom of that league since he got there. He's the young man that came from Loyola, and really, really interested to see how that goes. Michigan, they like what Michigan brought in. And again, on paper, yes, sir. Yexel Lendenberg from UAB would have been a top 15 NBA pick, no question. He's there. Elliot Cadeau's the guy that I got a big question mark about there. Kentucky, they brought in Jaden Quaintance from Arizona State. He's a stud. Jalen Lowe from Pitt, averaged 17 a game. He's going to be a great player. St. John's, man, they just went in and went boom, 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 boom. Went into the portal and just lit it up. Think they're going to be really good this year. We got them at number 1. Washington, everybody excited over there. Last year they brought in great Osabor, and it didn't really translate. I think they're going to have a little bit of eyeballs on their coach there, Danny Sprinkle. L side, Arkansas, they think Boogie, leaving, and they lost a couple of other guys. That's kind of big. The other guy they lost was the big Z, Zavonimir Ivisek, going to Illinois to play with his brother. Memphis lost Haggerty. That's huge. He's going to be, a top 15 pick in the NBA. This is what I'm talking about also. Lendenborg could have been in there. Pettiford could have been in there. Haggerty could have been in there. That would have beefed up that first round significantly. Kansas, they lost O.J. Storr to Mississippi and Ryland Griffin going to Texas A&M. Maryland loses Gillespie, who's going to Tennessee, and they also lost another young man who's going to USC. Arizona State, they lost Jason Sannon, and they lost the big guy Jaden Quaintance, who's a heck of a player. All right, they got a couple of different things here. They were talking about some hot seat for some coaches. We'll leave that to next week. But what we did want to do today, just in memoriam, was there was a kind of special moment in college basketball. And college basketball is really cool because it does have those special moments. Oh, a couple of years back, I just alluded to, Porter Moser took a team, the Ramblers from Loyola, Chicago, mid-major. They're in the A-10 right now. Just went on a run, that great March Madness that everybody loves. And there's always the story, that goes around those crazy runs, and you get exposed to some of the people that are in those programs and some of the great stuff that goes on around there. Well, Moser had a great team, 4-out offense, post-man inside. They played very hard, very good defense, and they wound up running all the way up to a Final Four. That's what they call a true Cinderella. But Cinderella had an angel, and the angel was Sister Jean. Sister Jean was the nun who traveled with the team in the true spirit of the Catholic traditions. You would always have a nun, a priest, a brother, generally travel with the basketball team to be there for religious purposes, guidance for a number of different reasons, also a lot of times some academic support. But Sister Jean became famous because she was the face of the Loyola Ramblers as they made this run. You know, at that time, you know, a near 100-year-old nun, and she was their good luck charm, and all the players loved her, and everybody in the program loved her. Well, just recently, this week, we lost Sister Jean, 106 years old. Tremendous life, tremendous impact, and we all only get one life, you know. And what I say to all the young people out there, be prepared to do something big. Be prepared to be somebody big, because you only get that one life. And Sister Jean, as a nun, she'll be remembered forever. That run will be remembered forever. And it's one of the great things of college basketball, but it's also one of the great things about some of the intersection that you have with some of our religious folks that intersect with us as well in these different occasions. But I wanted to take the last minute of this show just to say, rest in peace, Sister Jean. You're in God's hands now. We loved you. You were great for the game of basketball. And that moment that you had with the Loyola Chicago Ramblers will be remembered forever as one of the greatest runs in college basketball history. Brady, fastest hour in college and pro basketball in the zone. Brady, get ready. All the dates are going to come flying in, my friend. You've been in the zone. You're big time now, my friend. You are off next week. We're going to be back next week, I think, with Brady. You're going to do a back-to-back, so we're going to be good. He's had a little bit of time in the seat, and next week he'll be ready to go. And that's actually the week Pete gets married. Again, to Pete and Christy, the greatest of congratulations. We wish you nothing but great health, wealth, and all of the good things a marriage has to bring in the future. Folks, we'll see you next week. You're in the zone.